everybody. Today is Tuesday, October the 3rd. Appreciate everybody being here. We have a fantastic agenda today. One of my favorite council meetings of the year. As a reminder, we are also recording this live on City of Madison's YouTube channel. You can view it now streaming. If you're not present, you can also view it as an archive on the City of Madison YouTube channel. So, like with all of our other council meetings, we'll stand, bow our heads, recite the Lord's Prayer, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we'll get into tonight's business.
Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I want to mention too to staff, if we have somebody here, we can have some overflow seating in the conference room because the audio does play in there, and we can open those curtains up. So if we do need additional seating, Hannah, we can see them in the conference room there. Clerk, could we do a roll call, please?
Of course. Good evening, Council. Tevenoff?
Here.
Krebs?
Here.
Lucy DeTillo?
Here.
Josh Schaefer is hopefully joining us shortly. Oh, he is? Josh, are you present? Josh Schaefer?
Councilman
Okay.
Schaefer is participating remotely. Let the record show that.
Bartlett?
Here.
And Dan DeTillo?
Here.
Excuse me, at this time I'd just like to publicly say thank you to Curtis Chatham, who has been on the City Council for almost 4 years now. He recently relocated and was outside of his district, and so he had to resign. And I just want to say thanks to Curtis for serving with us.
I'll echo that. Appreciate his service these last few and a half years, and his replacement will be selected soon. Council, have you had an opportunity to review the minutes from the last meeting, September 19th? If so, I'll entertain a motion to approve minutes.
I move we approve the minutes as submitted.
I second the motion.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. All right, moving on. We have some exciting news to share, so I would like to invite Madison's Main Street leadership and any members who would like to come up and talk about the best Main Street in the United States. We have a proclamation to share about that too. Hillary, let me go ahead and read the proclamation and tee this up a little bit for you because it is exciting news. Whereas the Madison Main Street Program is a 501c3 nonprofit organization designated by the Indiana Main Street and accredited by National Main Street Center. Madison was selected as one of 3 pilot programs in the late 70s, and the Madison Main Street Program has continued to serve Madison for 45 years. Madison is one of more than 1,200 Main Street communities across the country with a common goal of preserving America's historic downtown as economically vital centers of the community. The Madison Main Street Program has achieved and sustained the highest level of accreditation from Main Street America for several years. Whereas the 4 points approach created by Main Street America combines a preservationist-based approach focused on attracting people to the district to drive economic activity, attracting businesses to the district so residents and visitors have choices to shop, dine, stay, and participate in activities and entertainment, programs to promote an attractive downtown district, and programming to help businesses succeed. Whereas together with their partners, the Madison Main Street Program creates a vibrant and beautiful downtown commercial district that is attractive to businesses, visitors, and residents alike. The Main Street Program was recently named one of 8 2024 Great American Main Street Award semifinalists. One of 8 out of, how many did I say? 1,200? 1,200? This prestigious and competitive award is the nation's top award recognizing communities for their excellence in comprehensive preservation-based commercial district revitalization. The recognition will draw national attention to Madison, engaging residents and attracting visitors, which will also enhance the quality of life and vitality of our community. It is a privilege to partner with Madison Main Street to ensure that our city is a clean, safe, and beautiful community, an economically vibrant place for residents, visitors, and businesses large and small. And it is our hope that the community will have more to celebrate when the winners are announced in the spring of 2024. And Hillary, I would like to present you with this proclamation in honor of this achievement by Madison Main Street. And thank you guys. Isn't that awesome?
Yeah. Well, I know you have a long, full agenda tonight, so, I could go on thanking people all night, but I won't do that. But know that you're in our hearts. And I think importantly, this award doesn't come directly to the Madison Main Street program. I mean, we know that we contribute to the vitality in Madison, but we do it with our partners. So the city, Visit Madison, the Chamber of Commerce, all of our partners. And I know, again, I'm not listing everyone, please don't be offended. But we couldn't do our work without our board, our 200 plus volunteers, committee members, our 220 downtown businesses, vendors, donors, sponsors, and funding partners. And especially our dedicated executive director, Austin Sims, who is not here because she is at a 3-day workshop on small town revitalization. The recognition does go to the entire community. Downtown Madison reflects the vibrancy and the heritage created by the Madison Main Street program together with its many partners over many decades. You've heard the saying, it takes a village, and that is undoubtedly true when it comes to Madison's vitality and success. Our work will never be finished, it's continuous, but we're ecstatic to see what this award brings for us next. So thank you very, very much.
Hillary, thank you all. And I can tell you, traveling the state, and I just came back from a meeting with a bunch of mayors across the state. Madison is the envy of all the communities across the state for our historic district and our wonderful Main Street. And just as just another huge compliment, look what we've become despite COVID, despite all of the challenges and barriers that were put in our way. We're thriving, and Main Street is a main attraction for everything that's happening around here. So thank you for all your work that you're doing.
Thank you.
Phenomenal. Moving into another phenomenal recognition, and this would be the John Minke Award presentation and proclamation tonight. And I'll turn it over to staff for the video for y'all's enjoyment. now read the proclamation we have, certainly recognizing the sacrifice John and his parents have made for our country, and Dick, your sacrifices you've also made. And I say often that we are standing on the shoulders of these heroes and giants. And it's just remarkable that how many in our community have served our country, continue to serve, and have sacrificed so that we can be here tonight, sharing and enjoying all the freedoms of liberty. Dick, I'd like to ask you to come up here, and Dan, welcome to join us, sir, if you can. Oh, hold it. Yep. Wear my glasses so I don't miss a word up here. It's too important. Whereas John Menke exhibited the finest traditions of the United States and city of Madison in volunteering for military service to our country. John Menke paid the ultimate sacrifice in the defense of our country, and the sacred memory of John should live on through the recognition of acts of service and sacrifice through others. Richard Dick Jones was born December 22nd, 1944, and volunteered to serve the United States Army in May of 1967 at the age of 22. Whereas Chief Warrant Officer Jones went through basic training at Fort Polk, Louisiana, primary training at Fort Walters, Texas, and advanced training at Fort Rucker, Alabama, where he graduated from flight school in August of 1968. Whereas Chief Warrant Officer Jones boarded a flight in Seattle in September of '68 and began his journey to Dufo, Vietnam, where he served as a warrant officer with the 174th Assault Helicopter Company. Warrant officer aviators flew through the heaviest concentrations of enemy fire in the Vietnam War and were involved in every aspect of combat operations. Helicopters became the symbol of the Vietnam War, and helicopter pilots were among the first to be killed in the war and among the last to leave. After 2 weeks of service, Chief Warrant Officer Jones was awarded the Army Distinguished Flying Cross Decoration, the highest flight award in the U.S. military, given for heroism or extraordinary achievement. And during his time serving, Chief Warrant Officer Jones flew over 400 missions and was awarded 27 decorations, including the Army Distinguished Flying Cross and Air Medal, with 23 numeral and V for Valor, and 6 medals, 2 Army Commendation Medals with Oak Leaf Cluster, Army Good Conduct Medal, National Defense Service Medal, Vietnam Service Medal, Republic of Vietnam Campaign Medal, and Sharpshooter Badge during training. Whereas Chief Warrant Officer Jones was honorably discharged in December of 1970, but continued his service to our country by serving as the Jefferson County, Indiana Veteran Service Officer from 2000 to 2010, where he secured over $20 million in disability claims for our veterans, and he served as City of Madison District 1 Councilman from 2012 to 2015. Now, therefore, Richard Dick Jones epitomizes the spirit of this prestigious award, and it is my honor, City of Madison, on behalf of the City of Madison, to present Richard Dick Jones the 2023 John Menke Award for Military Service. Today is Tuesday, October 3rd, 2023. Pam, if you'd like to join Dick up here, you're welcome to. I don't want to, if you're fine. So, it's hard to go from that to the business of tonight, which includes several ordinances and bills. So at this point in time, anybody who is not staying for the rest of the meeting, and Faith, I want to thank you and the Veteran Service Organization for all you do for Jefferson County. Thank you so much. Wow. Thank you. And just outside our council chambers, are the medals and awards for Mr. Jones. Thank you. John, thank you. I'll turn it over to Joe now for our bills.
So the first ordinance that is on third reading is ordinance number 2023-12, an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Madison, Indiana, amending the personnel policies and procedures of the Madison City Code to implement a parental leave policy. And we'll have a roll call vote on that.
Josh Schaefer? Josh Schaefer? Oh, he says sorry. I didn't hear it. Patrick?
Yes.
Carly Krebs?
Yes.
Lucy DiTillo?
Yes.
Jim Bartlett?
Yes.
And Dan DiTillo?
Yes.
Passes 6-0.
Now, the next ordinance is essentially a part of a series of ordinances dealing with budget and salaries and such. So the next one is the ordinance number 2023-12, an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Madison, Indiana. Oh, I'm sorry. Ordinance number 2023-13, and that is the notice of appropriations and tax rates for 2024.
Council, before we get into answering your questions, I'd like to just make a kind of a preamble here, and that is, this is a good budget. It was crafted using all obviously the DLGF prescribed procedures, while working with all three of our groups together: Mayor's Office, Clerk Treasurer's Office, City Council, department heads, the public meeting that we had for the budget workshop on August the 15th. And now what you have in front of you is the proposed 2024 budget. It's relatively flat from 2023. We are proposing a $14.3 million annual operating budget, which is almost identical to 2023. So I'll explain in just a second why it's pretty flat. But if you dissect the budget and you look at how we're accounting this year for the public safety lit tax, which is half of which, 50% of which, is passed back to Jefferson County, for our interlocal commitment, or interlocal agreement relative to the Jefferson County Jail and other economic development matters in the county. And you combine that with the, the 2024 debt levy for the Crystal Beach project, it's really almost $900,000 less in operating funds in 2024 versus 2023. The reason for that is the compression of two things. One is through the state legislature this year, they adopted a bill to provide property tax relief. And they did that in a form of suppressing the tax levy growth quotient. And they capped it at 4%. The other thing that's creating that compression is through rising assessed values because of a number of factors. There is a credit back to property taxpayers in the form of what's called a circuit breaker. So on a net basis, our property tax revenue is only increasing between 2.5% and 2.75%. Compare that to the inflation that we've been experiencing over the past year, and then also compare that to the fact that the tax levy is only funding approximately 65% of our operating budget, and you'll quickly see as you go through the numbers, and you have since the middle of August, why there have been reductions in some areas, and we have leaner operations in 2024, despite growing need for services and dealing with inflation and maintenance issues. But the good news is we combine that operating budget with other revenue the city receives, like miscellaneous income through our parks, through other forms of tax collections that the state gives us, such as a cigarette tax or part of the excise tax. Those things help us keep the funding alive for our streets and sidewalk programs, our matching grant in particular for that. We also combine that with our capital attraction efforts through the Redevelopment Commission, also known as TIF. And, outside of all of this, we have our utility operation, which is essentially a break-even operation for water and sewer. We are still able to pursue our key initiatives, which has been improving public safety, improving, sidewalks and sidewalk repairs across the community, replacing streets that are poorly rated, and encouraging and fostering a high quality of life and a strong business environment, as you saw earlier when Madison Main Street organization was here. That's happening because of a lot of concerted efforts working together. I'll turn it over now to Clerk Treasurer Rampey. She can talk about a few other factors affecting the budget this year, as well as the calendar.
Just hop into the timeline. The budget will be approved at the next city council meeting on 10/17. All information will be submitted to DLGF through Gateway by 11/1. DLGF will review and then approve the city's budget, and then we will receive our final 1793 notice. And if they, for some unforeseen reason, do not, we will have 10 days to appeal that and make adjustments.
Just to add an anecdotal thing here, which is, so we submit our budget based on the estimates that we have. The estimates that DLGF has provided to us with regard to tax levy, assessed values from the county assessor, as well as other miscellaneous incomes and revenues. We're still going through the process with DLGF to provide our estimates to them. They'll issue a 1782 notice, as Katie was talking about, probably in early December, and that's kind of the preliminary evaluation of them of what the tax levy would be. So we're still, working very hard to get as much tax levy as possible to support our operations. In December is when we will do the final cut on the, or I should say final revisions if necessary on the budget. So it could be they could come back and say, your budget's fine, all the sources and uses balance out, or they could say, you need to reduce your budget by a few $100,000 and we'll come back to council for a reduction in appropriations. But keeping in mind that we are not allowed to deficit spend and we're not allowed to overborrow. So anything we do relative to funding capital projects, which there's a significant amount of capital projects that need to be conducted, or funding our operations. DLGF will look at our proposed budgets and estimates and tell us whether or not we've done a good enough job demonstrating that we have a balanced budget and that any financing that we already have can be continue to be maintained. That's kind of the background for where we are today. And council, you've had the budget since our workshop in mid-August. Now we'll turn it over, see if either of you have any questions, and then after we go through council's questions, we'll open it up to the floor and see if there are any comments on the budget from anybody in the audience. And then after this, we'll go through the companion ordinances, which is compensation of elected officials and our salary ordinance for our staff and employees for the city.
Is there anything from the council on the proposed budget?
I think this budget has been put together fairly well, and appreciative of all the work that you and Mindy have done, and also Katie and Reedy Financial as well. I think you guys have come together well on this one, especially given the tax revenue constraints that we're running into.
Is this where we would talk about the opportunity for helping non-for-profits? Would it be in this section?
Yes, right now we are in the second reading, so if there's any part of the budget that you would like to bring up for discussion,
Sure.
And a proposal, that would be fine.
I know that
Yeah.
we had received, and I think maybe Mayor Courtney, you'd received it as well, just this afternoon, some information regarding lifetime resources. And I was wondering if anyone was thinking about taking that under consideration. Okay, thank you.
Anything else from the council on the budget?
One thing that I did have, which this may have been answered at our hearing and I've forgotten, the planning NRO fund, the 92,000 proposed for professional services. What was that for again?
So there's a summary in the shared file that I loaded in there that Nicole sent me. It's for stormwater plan and also the historic district overview, I believe, needs to be updated.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up because I'd like to elaborate on that. As you know, stormwater has been one of those hardest things to deal with across the community. It impacts the entire community and the community, particularly the North Walnut Street corridor, which is part of the Walnut Street, the Crooked Creek watershed. We need to bring some solutions to stormwater and flood mitigation. Yesterday, Board of Public Works approved an RFP proposal and awarded a pending contract to OHM to modernize our stormwater ordinances and our construction design guidelines. Our stormwater ordinance per IDEM has to be rewritten and approved by this body by I think for next spring. So we are going to go through now a good assessment and evaluation of our stormwater needs from a policy perspective, which will help us drive the execution of our priorities. The stormwater ordinance has not been updated since around 2006, 2007. Companion piece of that, which is actually more important, are the construction design guidelines. And why that's important is when we have commercial properties or residential properties built, particularly commercial though, built, we need to be mindful of the potential for displacement of stormwater. If you look across Clifty Drive, for example, you'll see tens and dozens of acres of commercial improvements up there that have been there for decades. None of them, almost none of them, have any type of stormwater detention or retention. As part of the Sunrise Crossing development, we included almost $1 million for the creation of a 3 million gallon detention basin that will capture stormwater from about 80 acres of commercial property on Clifty Drive and slow it down on its way to Crooked Creek and through the neighborhood on its way to the river. But we have several watersheds in our community, and Crooked Creek watershed and the Ohio River in general receives stormwater from a dozen states. So all that water that's north of here flows down to Madison and through our tributaries on its way to the Ohio River so that it can flow out. But our stormwater construction design guidelines haven't been addressed since 1996, and they are way outdated. There are much more modern best practices. So one of our key initiatives for 2024 is going to be tackling our stormwater management issues, and then also, like, coming back to why the professional fees are so high, is because we rely on engineering and design to also put together a flood mitigation plan for the Crooked Creek watershed using the data that we captured with our partnership with the Army Corps of Engineers. It's a long response to a simple question, but there's a lot of thought that's going behind that from a budgeting perspective, and it's going to be money well spent to deal with a major problem across our community. Thanks for the question, Patrick.
Anything else?
I do want to make a motion. I just know that Lifetime Resources does a lot for our senior citizens in this county, and I would hope that we would find a way to give them some funding. I would like to make a motion to move money from the miscellaneous and the common council budget, the $10,000, into some way fund Lifetime Resources.
Deputy Mayor, could you explain what that category is for?
Well,
Can we? Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
We
we
don't
have
use
to
that.
discuss it if nobody will second.
Is there a second?
I think, I just want to say that we're on board with finding, okay. Well, being silent makes it sound like we're not for it.
Well, we
We're
can
just,
make a new motion.
okay,
then.
all right.
or you can amend the motion,
We can amend the
or
motion.
you can withdraw the motion, and you can make a new motion,
Yeah. But there-
just procedurally. All right, do that too.
All right, so, was that a second, Patrick? Oh, I'm
And
sorry.
what exactly was the motion to amend?
Yeah, to amend the common council budget from moving the miscellaneous, the $10,000 budgeted for 2024 to help fund lifetime resources, $10,000.
Is there a second?
I thought Patrick Gordy seconded. He did not?
He did not.
Oh, okay.
He gave that as an option.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
sorry.
I misunderstood.
Yeah, I did too, so. All right, is there a second? Okay, hearing no second, the motion dies for lack of a second. Is there-
I would like to know, Deputy, is there a category where funds could be moved or shifted for senior citizens to where lifetime, some of the services they provide could be paid for?
Do you have a number in mind?
Like we talked about $10,000 at one time. I know it was 25,000, but after looking over their contribution, which I think is very worthwhile, I also think that it's a bit excessive for the number of clients that they are serving, which is relatively small considering how many senior citizens we do have in our community. So I would say it would be about $10,000 would be more appropriate
Okay.
than 25. And I know and the reason why I did not second was the miscellaneous category I know is used for various small miscellaneous items that are not necessarily big enough for their own category.
Right.
So that might not be the most appropriate place to take the money.
Right.
But it would be nice to be able to find some to help fund some of the services they provide.
Yes. So just a little bit of background for you, Dan. The miscellaneous categories, we have a few miscellaneous categories throughout this 500 line budget, but they really are used for unexpected expenses or, like Lucy said, items that are not budgeted for specifically or we don't know are coming. So we do utilize almost every dollar of miscellaneous funds every year. Right now, that line that you talked about is negative 5% in October. So we're going to have to cover that. But it would have to be, something would have to come from somewhere else in the general budget, not the overall budget, but specifically the general funds, to fund it. We just need to decide where that's going to be because, there probably will be some funds somewhere. We just need to take a look at where we are year to date, see where we might think that there could be some overage and whether or not we could assume that that same thing will happen next year and put it in.
So is it possible to be able to approve the budget as you've presented it, but also find a way to shift some funds to try to help out in this particular area?
Yes, two ways. We'd have to do that because we can't increase the budget at this point.
Right.
So we could either approve and then make adjustments, or we could spend the next couple of weeks trying to figure out what we're going to rearrange to put those funds in.
And that would put our budget timeline behind?
No,
No.
no, because you'll approve, the dollar amount will be the same that you're approving. We have to cut somewhere
Yeah.
to add that in.
The only thing I would remind you, though, is once it gets past second reading, you would need unanimous consent to amend.
Okay.
Would it need to be amended if it doesn't change the dollar amount?
I would,
General fund dollars would not change.
Can I get back to you on that?
Sure.
Yeah, I don't know that answer quite yet.
Josh. So, those are not general fund accounts. Would have to be something in the general fund, which would be, like the departmental budgets.
I guess my question is more about for $10,000 for lifetime resources, which is a recreation and support type of, yes, you can make an argument that it is related to parks activities in the purpose of the parks project. So would that make sense? Or would we be able to put it to budget for that out of park recreation or parks in a row rather than general funds?
I think we can look at that, Josh.
Okay.
I personally think you can take it from anywhere if that's what we want to do.
Yeah. Yep. We can look at that and, as long as it doesn't increase the numbers anywhere, then I think we can. Even if we need an amendment on third reading, which Joe will confirm with us, as long as it doesn't increase any numbers, we can look at all of it.
And just for this, I would just say that we're not cutting funding to seniors. In fact, we're increasing funding to seniors. But more direct funding through our parks program, the health and wellness, and then also the partnership that we do have with Lifetime Resources that's all operated out of the senior center. And as you know, I think a week or so, or the last council meeting, you approved a contract with Lifetime for us to take over and be the coordinator for the SNAP program for all of the community run out of our senior center. So, you know, our emphasis has been shifting resources toward active seniors and partnering with Lifetime Resources to provide support, health and wellness and nutritional services out of the senior center. And then a lot of what Lifetime Resources does is, you know, providing other care for homebound seniors across the community. So I see this as still supporting our seniors very strongly in two different ways and two different approaches. But I'm fine if we want to amend the budget to shift $10,000 around. We'll find a way to make that happen. All contingent upon, you know, the final word is going to be from DLGF in December when they give us the 1782, and we'll be able to determine from there exactly what our levy raise is going to be.
I think we're all, we've been kind of discussing, and we're all in agreement with that. We just weren't sure where to take it from, which is, I wanted to make sure Dan knew we were behind him. We're with you. We agree with you. We just weren't sure if that was the right department or line item to take it from.
And we have a little bit of time left to figure it out.
Okay.
And I also want to mention too that all the other nonprofits are taking cuts too. We have $130,000 budget for supporting our seniors, our at-risk youth, which is Boys Club, Girls Inc., Youth Shelter, supports the animal shelter, and our veterans. So there's already a
And tourism too.
oh, and VMI, yes. So there's already dollars there that Lucy will probably tell you the annual contribution from the city to VMI, despite record amounts of growth in tourism, has been flat probably for 20 years.
Yeah.
It's been the same amount. So, and both the Boys Club, Girls Inc., Youth Shelter, they're all experiencing reductions in funding for our operating budgets as well, because as I mentioned in the preamble, the whole budget is changing because of the way tax levies and circuit breakers are calculated. We're not fully benefiting from rising assessed values and investment that's being made in our community because of state legislation for 2024 and 2025 that throttles back the amount of property tax revenue communities can raise. We lose $1.7 million a year through the thing called circuit breakers. That's because of the property tax caps, the 1%, 2%, and 3% caps. So there's a lot of revenue needs that we're experiencing compression on, but the need from the community isn't changing, it's growing. And we have to be very mindful of that and redirect our resources to where we feel they can be most impactful and accomplish, our key initiatives at the same time. A little more background on the whole, we support a lot of nonprofits.
Is there anything else? Hearing none from the council,
Need a motion to, or did that already take place?
there was no motion.
I thought there was, okay.
When
that-
do we
Yep.
add
Oh, okay,
this?
okay.
Anything
We'll
from
find
the,
it. We'll
anything
find
from
it.
the public on the
Next one.
ordinance
Number 4.
for appropriation of, and tax rates, appropriations and tax rates?
Yeah, so my name's Erin Thomas. I'm the Executive Director at Lifetime Resources. As I'm sure you recall, at the last meeting, I provided a thorough overview of the variety of services that we provide as the Area Agency on Aging and Section 5311 Rural Public Transportation Provider. As you're aware, I'm asking for your consideration of your support in the amount of $25,000. And thank you for those of you who are recognizing, the value of our services and doing what you can to try to support us. We have been in the city's budget. My records only go back to 2002, but it was $23,850 for a number of years. And only recently did we raise it to that $25,000 just because, the need for our services and increasing, and as our expenses and everything else, as you would expect. Since the last meeting, we've received an outpouring of support in the community. The council members should have received a letter from me earlier this afternoon, along with over 20 additional letters of support. Those were letters from FSSA's Division of Aging, NDOT, local service providers, caregivers, and direct recipients of our services. Letters that describe Lifetime as a beacon of hope, exceptional, a true angel in disguise, compassionate, dedicated, essential, a godsend. I hope those letters speak volumes. And there are a number of individuals who would like to speak on our behalf in the room here today. And so I want to step aside and give them an opportunity to speak. But I also wanted to address a couple of things that I've heard said tonight. One of which is that not a great number of individuals receive services from Lifetime Resources. I know in the last meeting I read off how many people, 204 individuals receiving information and assistance, 341 receiving case management. 127 on in-home services. These are individuals who are on core services for long periods of time. So while it's not a high number of people, these are people that are receiving services on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, partially funded by Lifetime Resources. I mentioned in the last meeting we have a $1.1 million budget here. We provide public transportation, which has extremely high overhead costs. You cannot possibly run one route even for under $80,000, yet you're receiving 6 routes a day from our organization because we're able to bring so much to the table. And so I urge you to consider the bang for your buck here as we are able to utilize your funds to draw down an extraordinary amount of state and federal funds. I do have a little bit more to say, but I know there's a lot of people here tonight that would like to speak, and so I want to give them that opportunity, and then I'll step back up if you don't mind.
I think my comment was one of the things you wanted to address, that not very many people are being serviced. 21 residents are getting home-delivered meals. 21. I can't believe there wouldn't be a 0 behind that number.
I stated
I wish-
53.
Okay, maybe I have.
We're looking at the paper that you sent us today.
So.
I mean,
so
it is the 2022 stats, but you
but
did send it today
I
to
don't,
us.
I don't want to get in the weeds, but I just want to say,
Don't recall sending that to you. That's
we
not
would
what I
love
sent
to
you
be able
today.
to fund every single thing that comes before
Right.
us that is very worthwhile and important. I'm not trying to devalue what you do,
Yeah.
but also we're under constraints with our budget, and we have to make cuts just like everybody else has had to do. And it's also an opportunity to evaluate and step up the game and do more, to get more. And I don't mean that in a negative way at all. Make
Right.
good come out of bad,
Yeah.
We'd love to be able to fund you for 25,000, but I don't know where it would come from.
I think, the other thing to keep in mind is, these are core services that are helping people, maintain their independence. They're not programs, they're not activities, they're core services that are helping people maintain their independence in their home. People rely on these things for the safety and, being able to remain independent.
Yeah,
So it's a little different.
I would agree that in-home services are equally as important, or if not more important than active senior activity. But they both have great value, and the active senior activity keeps people from being homebound and in situations of poor health.
Right.
So,
I think I'll let, at this time, some of the other individuals speak up.
Your Honor, ladies and gentlemen, I'm a new driver with Catch a Ride, but my husband and I were fortunate to also be clients of Catch a Ride. When we first came to Madison, we happened to be at the Walmart parking lot, and there was a Catch a Ride vehicle, and we asked one of our drivers who is here tonight about the program. At the time, we could not get a car because of COVID. Things weren't moving, as you know, things were at a standstill. They were able to get us around. We were able to move into our apartment because they helped us move. They helped us get established here. I would not be here if it wasn't for Catch a Ride. I love Madison. I love the historical. You guys know what a blessing it is. It's just that I cannot imagine Madison without Catch a Ride, and the programs Lifetime Resources gives to the community is such an asset. I see it. We don't only help seniors, which most people think, but I see young people. We take people at least a couple times a week to Hanover College. We take them to work. We take them to Ivy Tech. It is not just for seniors. And you got to remember, baby boomers, we're getting older. We need programs. We need these programs more than ever because we are growing older, as we should be. And we want to be independent. We want this program here for us to rely on also. I know there's people who say, I hope this program is around for my children because I appreciate it so much. It's such an asset, and I do hope you can find the funding to help it stay alive and to improve and grow because it is such an asset, and it was an asset for us. Thank you.
Slow, sorry. I actually am one of those that have received services for in-home.
I should ask, when you come to mind, please state your name and address, and that way we can get your name on the
Yep.
background. Sorry, ma'am.
Mine-
Didn't catch your name.
My name is Beth Roylette, and I live just down the street here.
Okay, thank you. What's your name, sir?
Scott Bate, and I live on Wilson Avenue. And, but, I've been recently hospitalized, lost another leg, and now, I had to utilize Catch a Ride a few times just because of wheelchair access. Currently, I'm proud of the fact that I'm getting around a lot better than a lot of people would have ever guessed. And, but I have limitations. Things that are up high, things that are down low, I have a hard time with, and having, them supply housing, house cleaning services once a week, it's just enough to kind of keep me afloat. I can do a lot of stuff, but as far as being able to do, things out of my reach or, that put me in a precarious position, I can go down pretty quickly too. So I appreciate everything they've done for me, and I understand budgets because I worked with the United Way for years, so I know how you have to share the wealth. I just speak on their behalf.
Hi, my name's Tony Carpenter, and my mother and I live in Madison at 748 Presbyterian Avenue. I had a lot of support when my husband was alive, but Life Resources have really been a miracle heart. Just straight to the angels. They have helped my mom, which is 85 years old, and for her to be able to stay in her home. And they have also helped my brother that is paralyzed from the waist down now, and this happened 4 years ago. And they have just been a godsend. And I hope that you take that in consideration when you decide, you know, where you're gonna pull the money from and stuff, because it would be deeply appreciated. Because my hands are pretty well full, working full-time at the hospital and taking care of my husband's business, and so they're just a blessing. I hope that, you find it in your hearts to be able to pull it from somewhere. And I thank you very much.
Any other comments on, statements on the budget for council?
I got two things tonight. One,
Will you please,
yeah,
state
my
your
name is Sue Patterson, 711 Walnut Street, Madison. It's nice that you roll up your budget like that, but I personally would like to see the detail behind all of that. And I sent a note last night to Katie about, I would like the detail behind that so I can take a look at it, familiarize myself with it. I also want to make a comment about Lifetime. My dad experienced a serious health issue in 2012 and could no longer drive, and so he took great advantage of Catch a Ride. He went to visit my mom up at the Waters. He caught Catch a Ride to take him out to Northside Liquors to get his Powerball. I mean, he took full advantage of it. You know, he went to the grocery store. He went to his doctor's appointments and things like that. And it's not a small thing. I went with him on several occasions, and it's a long circuitous route through North Madison, and so it's not quick, but that's the only public transportation we have in Madison. They also help disabled folks in this town. I'm concerned about, do we have the support for them in 2023? Do we have the money in the budget for them in 2023 to make the budget, to make the commitment to them, or to fulfill the commitment that was made to them last year? Or what happened to 2023? Do we
No,
know?
we did not include any monies for them. We redirected our funding for our senior center. So just to frame this up, I want to address.
I understand about
So over the
competing
last,
priorities.
over the last 7 years, the city of Madison has contributed almost $170,000 to Lifetime Resources. Much of that investment to them went at the sacrifice of our own center. Now what we're doing is, as you've seen, a resurgence. And you've been over to our senior center. It's
No.
beautiful. The renovations.
No,
You've
I
never
haven't
been in our senior center.
No,
Okay. Well, I know
I'm more
that.
active
I know-
than that. I'm more active than that.
Well, it's a very active group
Yeah,
over there.
well, I'm down at the Brown Gym at 6:30 in the
And so
morning.
our programming, right, is, we just did remodeling, and I think Lifetime Resources assisted in that. We have higher attendance over there. It's very active. We've also invested in the pickleball courts. We also have added more programming availability for our active seniors in the Brown Gym. We've also added senior trips. So we're investing in seniors more than ever before, but doing it directly through Parks and Rec and our existing senior center versus home health care and other services that Lifetime has done. I mean, I think the partnership with Lifetime has been good, but as we talk about limited resources and priorities, let's try to fix our own shop for a little bit. And then to address your other comment relative to the budget, because I would have thought would have known this, but the Notice to Taxpayers was published on September the 9th. And what that says is, here's our budget, and here our budget is available for you to review. If you come to City Hall, there's a full detailed packet of it. And so it's been available since September the 9th for
Well,
anybody who's asking.
you know what, I've been busy with a few things, Bob, like campaigning, you know, I've been busy with a few things. The second thing I want to say is, if there wasn't the money put aside last year, why, when the questions came from Lifetime this year, why weren't they addressed? Why did the executive director have to make multiple phone calls and emails and not get an answer? That's not being transparent to me. You should be, if you're gonna do that, and it's well within your right to do whatever you want to with the budget. But you ought to, these people have been partners with the city for over 20 years. And I don't think not giving them a heads up is any way to treat a partner.
The word transparency is very overused and abused. I have access to the numbers, the clerk treasurer has access, and every person up here does. And they will gladly share them with anyone at any given time. So whoever is your council person, you may reach out to them if you feel like the clerk treasurer's office is unresponsive, but I'm pretty sure they would make an appointment with you, and they will share these numbers with you. There are no secrets. Everybody sees the numbers. Please don't abuse that word.
Well, what I'm saying, Lucy, is if there was going to be a change in policy, a heads up to the not-for-profits that it was going to impact would have been a really good thing to do. I worked in budgets for 22 years in the city of Indianapolis, working directly for the city.
And you had those numbers available to people to share, right?
Yeah, and
Okay.
we
do
were
as
on
well.
we were on the public access channel every night from the beginning of August through the end of September, and we had meetings with every department in the city, and the outside related health and hospital and things like that. So yeah, we're very transparent. Thanks very much for the help.
Any other statements from the public with regard to the 2024 proposed budget?
I'd like to say something about Catch a Ride.
What's your name, ma'am? I'm sorry. What's your name?
Patricia Stenty-Ford.
Nice
I
to meet
live at Hope Community on Craigmont Street. And I rode the very first Catch a Ride bus when it came to Madison. And it was a godsend because I'd never driven. I'm still riding Catch a Ride 3 or 4 days a week. Doctor's appointments, tests, shopping, and everything. And I don't know what we would do at Hope Community without that service. So I hope you can find some money to give to us so that it can continue. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I think we did say that we're going to work on the budget to find $10,000 to contribute to Lifetime, and as well as support our other senior programs. Yes, sir.
There's Mike Greck on 1106 East Street, and just to this lady here that made a comment about she's been too busy campaigning and didn't have time to look at the budget. This is probably one of the most transparent councils and mayors that I've seen in a long time. I've missed several of these meetings, but I don't believe I've ever seen you at any of these meetings. And if you want to find out something about this city, you come to the meetings. You talk to the representatives, you talk to the mayor. It's very open. Now, I worked at Hope Community. There's a lot of people that do use that share ride. And I understand where there's not money for every program, but maybe there's some other way, whether it's through the private sector, GoFundMe, whatever, to raise money. I think the city's doing what it can, and I'm sure that you people will do what you can. But to come up here and say that this is not a transparent form of government here in this is just wrong. Thank you.
Thank you.
If I may, just in a response to something somebody had said out there a little bit ago, they said they hoped we would find it in our hearts to find some funding. And I can assure you that it's in all of our hearts. Our hearts aren't where the problem is. The problem is in the numbers. And we've got to find it in the numbers. That's where the challenge is.
I am a driver.
I'm sorry, what's your name?
Mary Albach. I live in Crooked Creek, 225 Molly's Way. I've been a driver for 14 years. There is not a more rewarding job They do need us. They appreciate us beyond belief. They make me feel so good some days. But a lot of people down here depend on to get to the hilltop. There's no grocery store down here. There's no hospital down here. There's some doctor's offices, but most of what they need is on the hilltop. I wouldn't want to have to pay the taxi cab fare for the round trip for what it costs. They depend on us. And that's all I need to say. Thank you.
Thank you. I think it's almost being implied that if we don't fully fund their request at the expense of the other nonprofits, that Lifetime Resources is going to cut services. Aaron, would you like to address that? Are you going to cut services?
There's a potential for the need to cut services. We have a deficit in our budget. If you look at the funding, you guys must have received the funding packet now. I sent that out months and months ago. If we aren't able to, the reality is if we aren't able to match the federal funds and we aren't able to, come up with additional funding beyond just this $25,000 that we're asking of you all, what you have in front of you probably shows an additional $70,000 of funds that we have to come up with. Then yeah, the reality is we may have to reduce services, we may have to induce a wait list. We just have to see. We will do everything that we can to try to raise additional funding. I think it's a hard set of services to do just your traditional fundraising methods for. People aren't as excited about giving money to public transportation, for example. And I guess we've just always seen ourselves, and I had always thought that the various communities that we serve see ourselves as an extension of the government and services that core human health and services and public transportation as a service that you would want to support and want to make available to your community. And those local matching grants show the importance of that as well.
Aaron, I'm
Or
curious,
requirements,
what
I'm sorry.
are you requesting from Jefferson County?
We requested 15, our funding from Jefferson County has decreased over the years. We requested, I believe it was 15 last year, and we got 10, and then they gave us an additional 15 through ARP funding. We requested the same again this year. I don't know that I have a final number yet from them, but our request was for 15.
Are there any other, I'm sorry.
Hello, my name's Doug Rump. I'm the chairman of the Lifetimes Board. I do represent Ripley County, however, all the seniors in all the counties are important to us. We're in the same situation you folks are. I was a town manager for 5 years. I understand constraints with budgets. But lumping Lifetime as a nonprofit in with some of these other groups, it's a nonprofit per se, but really it's a service, it's a need. I mean, these people are the most vulnerable citizens we have. And the numbers could be small, but how can you put a value on a small number? And you talk about at-risk youth. I understand that. And you talked about finding other sources there, Mr. Mayor. There's a lot of other sources out there for youth also. So, how maybe we can work together to solve this, to find those funds and talk with one another. The thing that concerns me the most as a board member, Erin has worked so hard, but she has had a really hard time over the last 2 years getting replies to emails and communications. We was never notified that we were not going to get the funds last year, and that's wrong. Thank you.
Is there anybody else that has any comments with regard to the budget as it pertains to Lifetime Resources or otherwise?
I have one brief comment regarding Lifetime Resources. I think we've all made it clear we're not looking to take away funding from Lifetime Resources. We're looking to do the best we can, given the financial constraints we have, to find funding that is available within our budget. And it's a big, complex budget with a lot of line items, and we're not voting yes or no on anything tonight, and we have time to work through over the next couple weeks before the third reading to see if we will be able to come up with something. And the resources, as you guys have all testified here today, the resources and the support you provide to our homebound seniors is invaluable, and we need to support it as best we can. And I think I speak for my colleagues in saying that we're going to do the best we can to help with that.
Anybody else? Okay, we're going to move on to the next ordinance, which is ordinance number 2023-14, and that's an ordinance fixing compensation of elected officials of the city of Madison for the year 2024. Okay. Are there any questions, comments, or amendments to this particular ordinance?
I have an amendment to make. I would like to add a line item for the Common Council President stipend of $1,200. We've been paying that for, well, I guess we need a second for discussion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, and as I understand that, that's actually in there, and it's in the budget, it's just not been...
It's been appropriated in the budget, but it wasn't added to the ordinance for elected officials, and it becomes part of their overall salary, and it needs to
So
be.
this is really just a cleanup.
Correct.
Okay.
And it's we've been allocating this for several years as well.
Yes.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second for the amendment to add the council president stipend. And so is there any other questions or comments on that? Any questions from the public on that? Okay, if we could have a roll call vote, please.
Yes.
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 Are there any other questions, comments on 2023-14? Hearing and seeing none, we'll move on to ordinance number 2023-15, and that is an ordinance fixing salaries of appointed officers and employees of the city of Madison for the year 2023. Are there any questions, comments, or amendments to ordinance number 2023-15 from the council? Seeing none, are there any from the audience? Okay. Seeing none, that will move on to third reading. The final ordinance on second reading is ordinance number 2023-16, and that is an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Madison amending the zoning map for the City of Madison, and that is dealing with 117 Ferry Street and changing it from general business to historic district residential. I believe the homeowners were here last council meeting, if I recall. So are there any questions, comments with regard to this ordinance 2023-16? Anything from the public? Okay. Hearing none, that will move on to third reading at the next meeting.
Okay, moving on, we have nothing miscellaneous. I know we've had lots of public comment throughout the evening, but if there's anyone here who would also like to address the mayor's office and city council, please come to the podium now, identify yourself, and make your comment, please.
My name's Adam King, Miles Ridge Road. Last meeting, we talked about things that we could do to improve the conditions of the speeding. So we did a poll. The first one was sidewalks. It was 67%. I know that's a lot of money. Add speed tables was 30%. Add a speed limit sign to the stop sign. So when you're coming up to the stop sign that way, you're only putting a sign on at the stop sign pole instead of buying another pole and paying somebody else to put it in the ground. That was 28%. Paint new lines in the street at the stop sign, that was another 22%. That would be a big help too, because they stick out. And they were painted there before. They're just not there anymore. They've worn out. So that's what I have for that. As far as, we've noticed a decrease in speeding a little bit. Still, it looks like the average, I'm gonna say, because I have a radar gun, sorry. It's between, you'll get 20 to 25, but a lot of them are between 25 and 35 is what's going down between those two stop signs. And then at that first stop sign there, people that are turning right, they're not even stopping at all. You get an
Are they
average.
doing that with oncoming traffic? Is that what you're noticing?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
So I've sat and monitored it. I mean, I'm not standing out there pointing, I'm kind of set back, but just monitoring everybody. I'm not mentioning who or what, but just things that are going on. That's between 4:30 and 5:30 at night. So there's still quite a bit of traffic that goes through there. Since Chief has put an officer up there every other day, there wasn't last week, but he was putting it up there every other day, and he was catching people. So it puts a word out. They were starting to slow down, but when they know they're not there, then they tend to. But
Adam, how many cars do you think go through Miles Ridge every day?
well, I can tell you what go through every half hour. I've got 38, 44. That's between 5 and 5:30. And I can tell you there's 38 cars, 15 of them stop, 15 of them roll. And rolling is basically you're still going through it. You're not stopping. 8 no stop at all, and some of those were going at 30 miles an hour. They just go right through it. And I have those on here too that I wrote down.
So we still need to collect some information. And myself and Councilman Schaefer have been talking about this, and Chief Wallace has been up there.
Yeah.
There is still some data to gather and some solutions to discuss.
Yeah.
And it is a problem all across the city.
Right.
And we have to attack it everywhere.
Right.
Not any part of our community is immune to this type of driving behavior. And honestly, there's just a few ways to interdict and create barriers for people who are running or rolling through stop signs. And, for example, painting a stop bar. If they're gonna roll through it, they're gonna roll across the stop bar.
Well,
sounds like the community
But
doesn't want.
at least if the lines were there at the stop sign, maybe if they're looking, at least it'll draw something more to their attention to, you know what I mean?
Again, we're trying to change their behavior, right?
Right.
It sounds like the community is just modestly in favor of actually putting barriers in the road that would cause them to slow down. But we need to look at all those things.
Yeah.
And experiment.
And your biggest one though, I know it's a big expense, but sidewalks, everybody wanted sidewalks up there. I mean,
That would be a multi-million dollar
I understand that.
expenditure that wouldn't really deal with your speeding problem. It
Exactly.
would get you off the road.
right.
We need to continue to explore this, and we'll stay on it just like we're doing on the east end and the complaints about Bond Drive.
Right.
And other neighborhoods, the west end. I mean, if you're leaving town here or you're on Jefferson Street, it's crazy. But we'll continue to work on it, and it is a problem. We acknowledge it's a problem. We've got to find some solutions that will lower it down. I actually think the speed tables would be a better barrier to get people to slow down as something to experiment with. And there's portable speed tables that we can put up there, and they're quieter, but it does require you to drive across them much slower. So we'll need more feedback and input from the neighborhood about these things to get everybody's buy-in, because it's their behavior. We're also trying to change and make the whole community safer.
Okay, well, you have a huge percentage here just in the poll that we took, so.
How many residents participated in that? I'm just curious. You knew I was going to ask that question anyway.
Yeah, I think you said over 80,
Okay.
129 now.
I'd love to experiment with, we have one speed table in Madison, Indiana. It happens to have been placed in our new mural lot on Mulberry Street. It had a lot of engineering into it while we were expanding parking spaces available for all, and definitely handicap, golf carts, EV chargers, perimeter parking. There's a speed table in there that causes people to intentionally slow down when they're coming in and out of that parking lot. If you go over it too fast, you're going to pop up.
Right.
But there are interdiction things that we can try.
You can actually put in a road counter too, that way you would know
Well,
exactly
I
how
mentioned
many
collecting
vehicles
the
are
data.
going.
That's the
Yeah.
other thing that I would really like to do first, which is, do a traffic study, and we do those through an affiliate or partnership organization we have called SERPC. We can get traffic count and speeds.
Right.
Their equipment's been messed up lately, but that's a good place to start too, which is any solution we bring, we need to understand how big the problem is.
Right.
Thank you for that.
Adam, thank you for your statistics and effort.
My name's David Schneider. Been a resident of Miles Ridge for almost 18 years. So I live between Laurel Lane and Quail Ridge. Actually, let them borrow my radar gun that I purchased. But the average speed in front of my house is regularly double the speed limit. I'd say today when school let out, it was closer to 50 miles an hour. I mean, it's pretty ridiculous in that section of street. They run Laurel Lane and pass on to Quail Ridge. It's pretty much out of hand, and I'm glad to hear the speed table thing's an option, because I think it's the only solution, because we do have two 20-mile-per-hour speed limit signs very visible in my area. They're just disregarded. So I mean, the only things that would actually improve would be increased law enforcement or ticketing, or some type of speed table that will physically limit them. Now, it may increase concussions at KDH, but I think the speed table will probably be the best bet. Yeah. So just wanted to come along and support them, because it is an issue and it's a major safety. I mean, I actually have to look both ways to mow my yard. It's that dangerous. So just take some of that into consideration.
Will do. Thank you, David.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Howdy. My name is Champ Clausen. I live at 722 West 3rd Street. If you don't mind, I'm going to just read this, because if I get sidetracked, I'm going to be like a Pentecostal at Christmas Mass, and weird things will happen. No offense to any Pentecostals, Baptists, Presbyterians, or Catholics. I love Madison, Indiana. And before we begin with agreements of amens, or look like a bunch of bobbleheads thoughtlessly reacting to the cadence of the statement, let me explain how and why I love Madison, Indiana. I love Madison, Indiana, because I love walking in the morning, stepping outside my doors and seeing the beautiful ray of God's nightlights dotting the sky as a celestial map spelling out his greatness and abilities. I love Madison, Indiana, because amongst and beyond the concrete, there's beautiful hills and trees that explode like fireworks with colors and blanket the landscape surrounding and existing within this area. I love Madison, Indiana, because of the immaculate architecture on display, not only by God, but by men and women of yesteryear, which can easily be seen by walking and observing the buildings in downtown Madison. I love Madison, Indiana, because of the history of this beautiful town is so unique, amazing, and genuine. I love Madison, Indiana, because I can sit at a coffee shop or be walking my beautiful, precious fur baby, Betty, and have a fellow Madisonian greet me with a simple hello and a smile. I love Madison, Indiana, because it is the home of so many second chances, given gracefully to all individuals, be they lifelong citizens with long-standing ties to the community or strangers from the state or elsewhere. I love Madison, Indiana for so many reasons that, should I list them all, the whole purpose of speaking would be lost and the business would be left to at a later date. Yet I must declare one more time with great clarity, I love Madison, Indiana. There are some things within Madison that I do not love. There is always opportunity to build and grow. These things require time and patience. Though these can be nuisance, they are not to be abhorred. What is to be treated with contempt, in my opinion, is recent comments made during current political campaigns that go unexplained and or are found without merit and are mere reflective of propaganda, misinformation, and truth claims. Comments such as declaration of the city of Madison being, quote, 18 million, close quote, dollars in debt without providing the sources utilized and explaining how that number is ascertained is irresponsible. To accuse a candidate as solely responsible for obtaining and maintaining that debt while withholding the fact that all of the council signs off on all debt and the purpose of debt causes the information to not only be suspect, but viewed with incredulity. Excuse me. The person making such claims should publicly present their data and submit their reasoning for such declarations. Further, the accusations that audits administered by the state of Indiana stating issues regarding the recording and expenses of monies indicates poor management and a lack of transparency by the local government should be evaluated, discussed, and debated publicly. Auditing not only informs the changes that can and should be made to better conform to generally accepted accounting principles, but also the state requirements of transparency and reporting as well. Comparing audits from previous administrations as well as those in the current time period provides us with the best data regarding if the current administration and reporting of finances is doing better than previous years. It is not only a tool for current reporting, but one for measuring growth, progression, and or regression in practicing proper accounting and the reliability of financial reports. The longer period of audits reviewed results in clearer detail on how the city's reporting of financial information is in relation to past administrations. The individual or individuals that are stating their interpretation of the audits should have an opportunity to publicly prove their interpretation and reasoning. And the current administration should have equal opportunity to respond to such claims, and both should be presented publicly. Lastly, I am concerned regarding the lack of data and plans from candidates that are opposing incumbent candidates in citywide elections, in particularly the mayoral and clerk treasurer elections. Publicly, we have not much detail regarding how these candidates would make the city better. Admittedly, it is the responsibility of the candidate to present their data and plans to the public and not the purpose of the party or council to do so. It is also true that in a political race, the incumbent must not beat the opponent. Rather, the opponent must beat the incumbent. That stated, it is in the best interest of the public to be informed regarding the differences and issues between the candidates without the logical fallacies of generalization and ad hominem attacks that are often seen and heard in political circles. It is also in the interest of all citizens of Madison that decisions be made in an informed and educated fashion with more than simple political affiliation as a determining factor. I plead with this council to encourage and ensure that the various issues and details within them, as well as plans for a better future, is presented in a concise and diplomatic form by the candidates for mayor and city clerk or treasurer. This forum can be through a public forum, a debate, public speaking event, or an extensive, exclusive available for the public perusal online, either in written or video form. If necessary, I'm willing to purchase a megaphone for a public gathering and speech at a park or empty lot, provided the candidates appear and speak. Though this method is one of antiquity, it is events that can bring our community together instead of providing the divide that some seemingly wish to maintain. In conclusion, I have seen and worked with campaigns that range from city council and mayoral races. I have personally witnessed how politics divided and destroyed neighborhoods and friendships alike. That needs not to be the case. A presentation of data and the proposal of plans in a diplomatic fashion should be communicated openly and succinctly. A discussion with the doors wide open keeps the age-old adage of loose lips sink ships from being true in a political sense. It further demonstrates that two friends can be friendly in disagreements, and the community can still love one another and work together though disagreements exist. It is true, and I firmly believe, that the public should be educated and make an informed decision, a conclusion of logical thinking and debate. It is also true that such discussion and conclusion need not to be divisive, and this body of government can and should make that happen so that others, like me, can have the opportunity to say, I love Madison, Indiana, and I love you too. Thank you.
Jim, thank you. You introduced a couple of complicated things there. One is use of financing to invest in our community. The other one is audits. Those are two complicated things, but we speak about them quite often, honestly, because we're one of the most transparent administrations in city history. If you can't find what you need, just ask. But between the public meetings and our website, our outreach efforts, our newsletters, our project pages, our outward reaching with public appearances, all of our public meetings, our opportunity in this great country, as we saw Mr. Jones and Mr. Minke here, we celebrate liberty and our freedoms and public speech all the time, every day, but definitely frequently here in these council chambers. So I appreciate you, everybody here who was here tonight. It was a long meeting and giving some remarks. And I think that as we go through the next 4 or 5 weeks, it's important to talk about facts and make sure the facts get out there. And we want to lead the city into the future. Everybody here does, and we do that by working hard, bringing good plans, debating what is a good plan or the better plan. It is unfortunate that it is divisive. It's just somehow the nature of politics, but I do think that there's been misrepresentations relative to use of debt and when it happened and what it was for. The city's very prudent with its use of debt. We're very regulated relative to the debt. We also have creditors who also do that. They make sure that the city can afford to repay its obligations. But we're also a city that's on the move with over $100 million of property ourselves that has to be maintained and invested in and reinvested in so we can provide services to a growing community. And as we've talked about in many instances, a lot of those assets and infrastructures aging, and it's always a challenge from administration to administration to keep up with time because it doesn't slow down even if we do. So thanks everybody for being here tonight. Oh, sure.
Well, full disclosure, I do live in Miles Ridge, and I thank my neighbors for being here tonight. I live in the back part, so I drive through it numerous times a day, and I appreciate all the information the Kings have brought forth. I know the hearts and everything are in the right place, and we appreciate that. You want everybody to stay safe. As I was going through the stop sign in particular the other night at the Miles Ridge and Poplar Ridge, as I was pulling away, I looked in my rearview mirror, and I think Mr. and Mrs. King, I believe, were behind me, and they did a great job stopping. I mean, it was a textbook stop, and I was just praying to myself, like, man, I hope I stopped all the way. Did I? I think I did. Yeah. Okay. Good. All right. Which goes to my next point. I think it's more of a creatures of habit. We just get you know, we're just in the zone, we're going home, we're going to work or whatever, and we just don't, you know, pay attention like we should, and people do get hurt when we don't pay attention like we should. So I think Mr. King brought up a good point here tonight. Some additional visual aids would certainly help. I think some things we can probably do right away is I can get with Mr. Peak and look at putting that stripe back on the pavement. You know, I know some places even write the word stop or whatever, but I think I would like to, you know, get with Mike and see if we can't maybe do some temporary and then get the counter up there, as the mayor had stated. I believe it's down on West 3rd Street right now. At least I noticed it when I came in. Okay. Okay, okay. So yeah, definitely would like to get that up there so we can get some additional information on the speed and the number of vehicles in that area is overwhelming. So that data would certainly help us. And I agree, you know, there's a speeding issue. It's 20 miles an hour, and you really got to pay attention, make a conscientious effort to go 20 miles an hour. So those are all the things we can look at. But I appreciate everybody's concern, and I will certainly get with Mr. Peak. It's okay with the administration to see if we can't get some striping at these stop signs. I think people, like I said, just don't pay attention to what they're doing a lot of times. So, thank you.
Thank you. As we close out, I just want to mention this. We have had 2 weekends of just fantastic tourism-related events that did not happen by accident. We had the air show, the Wild West Rodeo, phenomenal Chautauqua Old Courthouse Days, Run the Falls 5K, and probably some things I didn't mention, but phenomenal weekend. Lucy, congratulations to you and all our tourism partners. I'll pause there. And anything else, council? Next meeting will be October the 17th. Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Oh, yes, Josh, sorry.
Oh.
Josh, check. I heard all of it. Thank you, Josh.
I'll second.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks, everybody, for being here. Thank you, Josh.